Welcome back to Africa This Morning. We are now on Table Talk, and today we are going to take on a social discussion regards to a population that we'd rather not whisper about even in our own homes. That's touching on the rights of those who are imprisoned, the inmates. Joining me to discuss this is Eliud Ngunjiri, the director of Rodi Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome to Ebro Africa.
Thank you.
Let's start with the history of Rodi Kenya before we go into the mission of Rodi Kenya.
Okay, Rodi Kenya, in full, Rodi stands for Resources-Oriented Development Initiatives. The name came about as a result of an approach that we use in development, which kind of wants to revolutionize the way development is done world over, where focus on people's problems is more emphasized than focus on people's ability, resources, and whatever it is they are endowed with. The problem we want to address by the approach of resources-oriented development approach is to do away with the problems-oriented development approach. For example, when you go to a community and you tell them that your mission is poverty eradication, for example, and you tell them that you like working with the poorest of the poor, and then you ask them what their problems are, it's like you're asking them to prove that they're the poorest of the poor for them to get your support.
And that's usually the Kenyan strategy. Show how much you need something for you to benefit from being supported, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And the poor people actually do it in a very nice way, and they prove that they are the poorest of the poor you're looking for by coming up with all the sorts of problems that they think they have. They also discover others. They also pretend
others.
They feign to have problems they don't have, just in order to prove that they're the poorest of the poor you're looking for. And in the course of doing that, they feel worse off upon telling you about their genuine problems, discovered problems, and the feigned ones. They feel worse off, and in actual fact, are in more need for support.
The approach that you're taking is to try and change the psychology of the population when it comes to their own ability to change their dimensions.
Yes, we focus on both the perpetrators of the problems-oriented development approach and the community themselves, because there's no extremely poor community. If the life has been going on, however poorly, they have things that make life tick.
And basically they can change their dimensions if they choose to.
Development agencies or development workers should aim at helping them identify and mobilize. That way you can even leave them at that point, they'll go on. But when you keep on emphasizing on the problems people have, they feel worse off and actually feel like they're naked and wouldn't even want to face you in the face.
The impact of airing their dirty linen in society.
Exactly. And even upon telling you what the problems they're facing, you do very little about those problems. So you injure them even more. The first blow you give them is negative discovery. The second blow is when you can't do anything to the problems they have told you they have. Instead, we use a resources-oriented development approach. Use the same method. You can tell them about your mission of poverty eradication, but make sure you tell them that you like working with the poorest of the, working with people who have resources, people with plans and aspirations, people who are willing to do something about their plight.
And you're touching on a very sensitive group at this point, those who are imprisoned for one crime or the other. How easy has that been to change their vision of themselves and to change? You told me about a tripartite option that you're taking up, changing the community, changing the victim's mind, and changing the perpetrator, even as you're working to create a balanced environment. How easy is that?
It's not easy, but the little we've been able to do gives us energy to continue and want to actually tell each and everybody about it, so that we can make a difference in the lives of our people, the poor people, and those who are incarcerated. For example, our interest in prisoners, I don't know whether that's what you want me to talk about, comes as a result of a number of concerns. Number one is poverty. Concern about how the fact that poverty is rife in Kenya, the fact that it pushes people into crime, especially in a country where poor people's survival mechanisms are criminalized. The other concern is the fact that our criminal justice system is also defective in the sense that it makes matters worse other than making a difference. The third concern is the way rehabilitation of offenders is done inside prison and outside prison. What we do is to actually correct the criminal justice system by using a restorative justice kind of system, whereby instead of just targeting the offender, for example, if Beryl, you stole my money or my livestock and you rendered me poor, even if you are put in for 7 years, will I get my livestock back? I will not. So even if when you complete your jail term, you fear that Ngunjiri will harm you. Is it?
Yeah.
And I also will fear that Beryl will be upon me.
Again, because they reported her, yeah.
Exactly. So the criminal justice system actually kind of perpetuates animosity between the offender and the victim, and indeed the entire community.
You're talking about a sensitive equation there of rehabilitation.
Yes. So what we do is that instead of using an approach that only focuses on the offender, we use a restorative justice system which targets the offender, the victim, and the community. And we target them for the purpose of restoring them. Each one of the 3 people is injured. The offender committed an offense. The victim suffered
an attack.
The community is annoyed that they will be the next one to be attacked, or they are connected with the victim. So for those 3 people, we aim at working with them simultaneously. This is how we do it. We give skills. Let me tell you, in prison, you might go to prison being a normal person, but you suffer mental torture, mental anguish when you think of your loved ones, when you think of your work, when you think of your whatever it is, and there's not much you can do about it. That makes you lose self-esteem. It also makes you feel you lose hope in life, and by all means you lose skills for self-support or means for self-support.
Yeah.
And in the process of going through that, you're also being stigmatized and being made a material rejectable by the community. So what we do is that we train or give prisoners skills that do 5 things. We give the prisoners skills for enhancing self-esteem. We give them skills for enabling them to regain hope.
When you're talking about self-esteem, what exactly is done? Are there sessions with counselors?
It's the highest degree of self-worth. What we do, you can regain self-esteem by being preached to. I can preach to you, or I can counsel you, and you regain self-esteem. But for us, we actually give you skills that make you see yourself in a different way. For example, if you came into prison because of poverty, and we show you a way of getting out of poverty, fighting your way out of poverty by acquiring these skills that are doable without even heavy machinery or tools that you might want to think of, you see yourself a different person. For example, if we give you skills in making powder soap, do you know how to make powder soap, Beryl?
No, I don't. I admit.
Do you know how to make shampoo? You don't.
No, I don't.
You don't know how to make yogurt?
I do. At least that I can say I do.
Yes. How many people in your village know how to make yogurt? Maybe no.
You can count in one hand.
Exactly. Yeah. So when a prisoner leaves prison, having acquired those skills, they have not only worked wonders in making them feel they are different. They are regaining self-worth.
They're connecting themselves back to society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they also go out there, and we encourage them to pass on the skills to the community in order to pay back. So that when you go back, you're not seen as a jailbird, but you are seen as a person who has come with skills, who has come to appease the community, and that speeds up reintegration. So we give these people those skills, and the first one is self-esteem, the second one is hope in life, the third one is skills for self-support, And the fourth one, which is very, very important, is skills to enable you to pay back to the community, to pay back to the community and as much as possible to the victim. And the fifth one is that we enable you to actually fight poverty, reduce crime at the community level. That's what we equip our prisoners with. And we also go beyond that. While they're in prison, upon graduation, because they graduate and get certificates, we give them powers to act as peer educators while they're in prison, and also powers to be community trainers upon leaving prison.
So basically what they have is actually supposed to be their way of rehabilitating themselves back into society.
Exactly. That we do, and we've seen very good results, because right now we're working in 7 regions or provinces, if you allow me to say provinces. And we're in the process of also going to the 8th one, which is Northeastern. We're currently working with 35 prisons. And our next prisoner is supported and encouraged and supported to actually pass on the skills as a community trainer, so that I know it's at times it can be very tricky. Leaving prison, you feel like it's a fish out of water. Because
that was my next question. The fact that we don't have transitional institutions that walk you through. In the United States, they have probation officers and transitional homes. In Kenya, we do not have transitional homes. Halfway houses, there are very few in Kenya that would accommodate prisoners.
We don't have halfway homes or houses, but we have a probation department, which suffers from lack of adequate resources, just as we do as NGOs. They actually receive ex-prisoners, but that has to be with an order from the court. Not all ex-prisoners are can access
get that kind of advantage.
No. Meaning it would be right to say that there's no aftercare. The government realized that there's no aftercare in Kenya, and together with other actors and the government came up with an aftercare policy, which is complete, but it's somewhere, I don't know what the hitch is, it's somewhere. It's stuck somewhere, but we have a policy in draft, which we are waiting
just like all other
enactment.
policies in Kenya, there's always a great policy in hand, but enacting it is another problem altogether. When you look at an issue that is very sensitive, we don't want to talk about the victim before we look at it from the perspective, the devil's advocate. Even as you're talking about prisoners having experienced a lot of self-esteem damage, some would argue that is a cost to pay for the perpetration that you administered to the society. How do you allow them to recognize they did something wrong even as you're healing them back to the community? Because you don't want repeaters or repeat offenders to believe that it's okay, I have the support I need, I committed an offense, the community will still forgive me.
Okay, we've tried all sorts of things. For an NGO like ours to get support from whoever it is, because we depend on grants from outside there. And those agencies that support us are also made up of people. And the people, many people have a feeling that prisoners, they offended, they should be punished for it, and if possible, double punished. And also when you tell them to give you money for rehabilitation of prisoners, the
conversation is a bit tough.
It becomes tough. We tell them that, you talk to them about human rights. Oh, they have had that before. You tell them about, to the extent that we've learned to tell them that, in actual fact, it's not that we want to romanticize prisoners. No. They offended, which is an offense. So we tell them the burdens that
this will carry with it in the event we do not pay attention to it.
The prisoner is a burden by virtue of the offense they committed. Number 2, a prisoner is catered for at the taxpayer's expense. Your expense. That's another.
So whether or not I recognize the issue, I'm paying for their existence.
You will pay for their existence. They are taken care of by the taxpayer who was offended, so to speak. And number 3, the likelihood of them leaving that place hardened, worse off, is high if we don't do anything about it. And the fact that they leave that place hardened, the next step is hit you back hit you once again. The other burden is that once you go into prison, a prisoner becomes a burden in the sense that they heap all their responsibilities to other people. So do you want to continue having these burdens on you, or do you want to correct this person so that they stop becoming a burden? And that's easier. You can answer that one, and I would want to offload the burden. That's what we are telling you to help us to do.
The conversation with the victims who have been offended would be one, I believe, would be a very sensitive one to have.
Yes.
When you're coming to rehabilitating the prisoners back to society, what are some of the forums you've held with the victims of certain crimes and the perpetrators? What kind of conversation is that? Because I know that can be a bit volatile.
That is tricky.
Yeah.
That is tricky in the sense that not many victims would want even to see the person who offended them. And even if they see them, they wouldn't want to get into a meaningful conversation. What we do as a community, or as an organization, is to make sure that this person is given skills that are needed by the community there. So much, and they give them unreservedly, so much so that the community forgives this person. And we assume that because the victim is also inside there, they are seeing, they can see. And let me tell you, the victim and the offender, no one is at peace. So it's easier to heal. Because in our language we say, if you're chasing me for an offense that I have committed against you, I'll get tired, you'll also get tired. So both people are suffering. So when we expose them, when we create a forum whereby the offender who stole livestock from this community and can steal again and again if conditions are conducive, even upon leaving prison, if people see signs like, if we did A, B, C, D, he will stop offending, they'll embrace that one. They'll accept this person back and go a step further in wanting to support this person so that they can sleep. Yes.
Social protection strategies. The government read its budget recently, just last month, and the component on social protection was quite big, but allocation for strategies like ensuring that inmates are rehabilitated back to society, I believe I didn't get that read out by the Cabinet Secretary of Finance. What are the conversations you're having, one, from the county level, two, with the national government, to wake them up on this responsibility, even as we're having criminals as young as teenagers who are going to juvenile institutions and who will come back to society and will have to be reintegrated if there's no financial support? Who will pick up that burden?
Our experience is that rehabilitation of prisoners or offenders is an uphill task, not for Kenyan government alone, but almost world over. So I don't want to say how much, whether the money was given that isn't adequate or not, because even I don't know. But we have a feeling that left to the government to correct offenders, we won't go very far. This is a task that requires each and every person, each and every department to play a role. I'm saying this because crime is so widespread. It affects all Kenyans. But it's left to the chiefs and police, who are so few, who are too few, and so they're overwhelmed by the menace. And we keep complaining about police and the chief. My feeling, or what we would want to advocate, is that if crime is that widespread, if it affects all of us, it should be made a cross-cutting issue. It should be mainstreamed. If people are stealing because they're hungry, even if you lock them up 100 times, they'll still steal. But if they are stealing because they're hungry, the Minister of Agriculture should have a role to play. You see, so government departments, corporations, people should see a role in crime prevention. If we leave it to the government alone, we will continue suffering.
A multi-sectoral approach.
Exactly. The other approach should be, it's true that crime emanates from the community. Kweli?
Yes.
It emanates from the community. It affects the same community. Yes?
Yes.
But we do not have a community-based, an organized community-based mechanism for combating crime. We think it is the responsibility of the chief of the police. It's high time communities started taking care of their mess.
That's my next question. Before we get to the inmate is generated by the community. What are some of the conversations you're having with the community to empower them? One, community policing, being vigilant about their own parameters, ensuring that they understand the impact of crime on their own health, socially, mentally, economically. If they do not wake up and do something about it, own it before it actually hits you.
What we do is that although we start from the community, the prisoner, and follow up the ex-prisoner and work with the ex-prisoner and the home communities, and actually make that as our real base. Entry in the prison isn't just an entry point. We zero in onto the community, and at that point we talk to them about the need to actually do all sorts of the ills or problems that we face. For example, if every offense has to end somebody up in prison, then our prisons will almost be filled up. If every offense has to go through the criminal justice system, then we'll jam, we'll clog the whole process.
Which already is overburdened as
Which
it
is already overburdened. So we talk about alternative dispute resolution. And this should be done at community level. And it is even better if you steal my chicken and the fine you're given is to return 2 chickens to me. At the end of the day, I benefit. But if you've taken through that pipeline up to prison, I don't get my chicken, and at the end of the day, we become enemies. And not only 2 of us, but also an enemy with the entire community.
Has this strategy been embraced in any part of the provinces, as you put it, that you're working in?
We are working. We have a number of programs at Rodi, and one that relates very well with what we're talking about is the restorative prisoner rehabilitation approach program, which is in those 7 regions. We also have a pre-trial detainees and a crime prevention program. That one is in 6 areas. We're in Kakamega, we're in Naivasha, we're in Murang'a, we're in Voi, we're in Makueni, and we are in Nyeri. 6 areas where we work with people who are remanded. We call them pre-trial detainees, and we work with their home communities. That is where we kind of are promoting this alternative dispute resolution at community level, at police level. Instead of police always pushing you in, they can help you sort out your differences at chief level, even out of court settlement, so that we don't push everybody into prison, which is already congested. And once they get there, it becomes even a bigger burden for the taxpayer. You can say for the government, but when you say that the taxpayer, you feel it.
Because it's your pocket.
It's your pocket. It's your pocket. So that's what we do. The other thing is that we also, in prisons, even in the process of training prisoners, we organize what we call prison open days, whereby the community gets into prison to see the many skills that people are being given. And that works wonders in the sense that the ex-prisoner, the prisoner gets a chance to show the community that they have changed. They can make this, they can make that, and promising them that upon release, I'll come and teach you. The community also sees that we thought this guy
can't do a thing.
We thought he went to die in prison. You mean he's like in a college? So they even look forward to their return. The prisoner looks forward to going out, and the community
is more receptive.
More receptive.
When you're looking at challenges of repeat offenders, that can be something that has hit the success trail of Rodi Kenya. Briefly, as you close the interview, share with us how you've managed to work with, maybe even share an example of some of the repeat offenders who've, I don't know that say broken the heart of the initiative and the mission that would in a sense indicate to you that there's need for better support in terms of other stakeholders coming in and supporting the vision of Rodi Kenya. What we're doing as an organization is just like a drop in an ocean. We are
just a small organization. But having said that, we also see people who go back into crime, not because they intend to do that, but when you go to a community, having been punished in prison, people leave prison feeling that I've been punished, so I should be at peace with everybody. But when the community denies you that chance and instead comes up with a trumped-up charge, you become a repeat offender. Yeah, other people go back. Yeah, you can be given a medicine by Rodi, but the medicine may not work because of what you are. So you go out, and because you're bitter because of something or the other, you commit a crime. So reoffending comes as a result of a number of things. One, rejection by the society. Two, inability to actually make ends meet, and you feel like you want to reoffend in order to, you can't die when
stop
people
the
are still
gap
living.
in a sense, yes.
Other people go back because of trumped up charges. The community doesn't want you there. Whether you have whatever skills you have, what they remember more is what you did, and not what you. So what we do is that we do some accompaniment of some kind by giving this person skills, a certificate on top, and when they leave, we follow them up and link them up with the chiefs. We link them up with the church. We link them up with other civil society organizations, because we know how hard it is to actually go out there and gain courage to face the community and, in actual fact, do what it is that we trained you to do. So we require more concerted effort, not from Rodi Kenya alone, but as I said, rehabilitation of prisoners should not start and end in prison.
This is a community affair.
Exactly.
It's not only one
they came from the community. They spend a period of time in prison, but they will go back to the community. So any meaningful rehabilitation should have that in mind.
I think that's the point where we'll choose to end the interview, because next time, of course, we'll want an opportunity to come and see exactly what you're doing with the inmates to ensure that they are well integrated in society. For the viewers out there, the line between a mistake and a crime is a gray one. So any of you could cross it. It just depends on whether the community would be ready enough to receive you. And for the inmate out there, take responsibility of your life, take charge, fight to be reintegrated back, and forget the past. Maybe soon enough, the community will also do the same. For the viewers out there, I hope you've enjoyed this interview and you've been inspired. From the team here at Ooro Africa and myself, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.